So I finished reading The Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. It's a satire sci-fi novel written in 1959, and this cool edition that I have here is, I believe, the 18th edition, which was printed back in 1973. Yeah, 1973, and it's a really funny and somewhat philosophical book. I don't believe that I read 10 pages straight without laughing. We follow this guy named Winston Niles Rumford. He's an intelligent, incredibly rich man who owns a spaceship. And he takes it out to explore space with his dog Kazakh, and they run straight into a chronosynclastic infundibulum, which is basically a time-space funnel. Instead of him and his dog dying, Rumford turns into something like a wave. He is no longer a single solid body stuck in a specific time frame like us normal human beings. He is now stretched across the solar system permanently, touching Earth, Mars, Mercury, and Titan, which is one of Saturn's moons, I believe. And since he turns into this wave, he's able to exist in the past, present, and future simultaneously, which makes him able to predict the future whenever he materializes. And about materialization, which I didn't quite get until rereading lots of pages over and over again, let me just explain it using hair ties. I believe it will be much easier. So it basically means that he is not moving and or appearing from one planet to another, but rather he exists on all four of them simultaneously in a ghost-like form until the planet orbits exactly to the wave that Rumford's at. He materializes on that planet, which on Earth happens every 59 days. And so when the planet moves away from this wave, he dematerializes until another planet hits this wave or Rumford's wave in like X amount of days, and so on and on for every other planet. And so this makes him the most famous person ever across all of these planets. So one day when he materializes on Earth, he invites Malachi Constant, the richest man on earth, and one thing you have to know about him is that he didn't earn his fortune. Rather, he inherited it from his father, who as well made it through the funniest investment method I've come across. It's basically his father read the first sentence of the Bible and divide the letters into two pairs and put a period between them, and so each pair is the initials of the next stock he will chase. And it worked for him all of his life pretty much. Then he passed the method to Malachi, his son, who consequently didn't have any talent for making money. All he relied on was his father's luck. So when Malachi comes to visit Rumford upon his materialization, Rumford predicts Malachi's future and tells him that he is going to lose all of his fortune and get recruited into an army on Mars, and he eventually will end up on Titan and alongside marrying Rumford's wife. And so the prophecy starts happening, and Malachi's luck completely runs out and he goes bankrupt. His father had left him a message. He was supposed to read it when his luck runs out, telling him that to take the next opportunity he gets, and coincidentally, two agents from Mars are waiting to kidnap and recruit him into the Martian army. Now, that army consists of people from Earth who got their entire memory wiped out and brainwashed with this thing installed in their heads to make them follow orders until the invasion and the war between Mars and Earth starts. And so from here, you start to have so many questions. Some of them will get answered, and some of them are not. The book is a bit dense. A lot of the times, you want to know exactly what is happening or where it is happening and why. I believe it's because of the format of the writing, where Vonnegut sometimes starts from a vague part of the plot and works backward, and it makes you, the reader, have so many questions. And I think it's supposed to keep you hooked, which honestly didn't work for me. It made me reread lots and lots of pages back, which spoiled the smoothness of the journey a bit. And although I am pretty confident that this book will work perfectly as a movie or a TV show, I even read once that the creator of Rick and Morty was adapting the book into a TV show, but I don't know what happened after that or if it's still happening. Anyway, what made me hooked instead was the harsh journey that Malachi went through to discover his true purpose in life, among other characters. And this is where the spoiler free review ends, because I will dive into some of the philosophical themes in the book. Speaking of purpose, which is the major theme in the book, and we see it play out through four different characters. The first of which was Malachi Constant, who didn't have any real purpose to live by when he was back on Earth. But once he gets to Mars, he gets his memory wiped out, and they install that thing that I talked about into his skull. And anytime a soldier asks unwanted questions or looks at things they are not supposed to be looking at, it inflicts tremendous and insufferable pain. But that doesn't stop Malachi. For the first time in his life, he actually has the drive to be curious and to be knowledgeable. So he does this clever way to get around the system. Instead of asking big, obvious questions, he starts asking small ones every once in a while, and then he pieces the answers together himself. And when it comes to those forbidden glimpses, he just endures the pain, the agonizing pain, to see the truth. And because he's constantly resisting, the commanders on Mars, every time they catch him, he gets sent to the hospital to get his memory wiped all over again. But even that doesn't stop him, because he starts journaling every single piece of information he can figure out. And eventually, he learns through his hidden notes that he actually has a wife and a kid, and he makes it his absolute mission to find them and reunite his family. And by the end of the book, once they are all living together on Titan, he starts acquiring new skills, raw skills. He is pretty much doing everything from scratch. He was building a life with his own hands, and he realizes that for once in his existence, he isn't being used as someone else's tool. He is completely self-sufficient. He and that brings him enormous satisfaction. That was his purpose on life. Then you have the second perspective on purpose through Boaz, whom we meet on Mars as one of the commanders. Boaz is actually one of the people responsible for inflicting that terrible pain into the soldiers' skulls, using a little control box in his pocket. He was abducted from Earth when he was only 14, and he was an orphan, so his entire life consisted of being pushed and bossed around, whether he was on Earth or on Mars. And because of that, he was incredibly excited to meet Malachi Constant. He had heard all these legendary stories about how Malachi used to live in Hollywood, and how he had endless money, and how he could do whatever he wanted and whenever he wanted. To Boaz, that total freedom seemed like the ultimate way to live, the real purpose of life at the time. But his perspective changes when him and Malachi end up stuck on Mercury for 3 years. Down there, Boaz encounters creatures called harmoniums. He starts playing music for them, and for the first time ever, he realizes he is making millions of living creatures genuinely happy. They love him unconditionally, which is something he never experienced from humans. People had never been good to him, so he realized he didn't actually need them anymore. Once him and Malachi finally solved the puzzle of how to escape Mercury and get back to Earth, Boaz decides to stay on Mercury. And then he tells Malachi that what's the point of being free in a crowd full of people? He found his own genuine purpose with these creatures on Mercury. Third of all, we see it through Patricia, Malachi's wife. All her life, she was obsessed with keeping her image perfect or clean, which is symbolized by this old painting she has of herself as a little girl. She was dressed all in white, but by the end of the book, when she is an old lady living on Titan, she has this realization when she looks at the painting and says, the worst thing that could possibly happen to anybody would be to not be used for anything by anybody. After spending her whole life trying to avoid being used or dirtied by the world, she finally realizes that true purpose comes from actually being useful to people around you. And finally, the most heartbreaking exploration of purpose comes through Salo, who is a highly advanced robot created on the planet Tralafimador. His creators, which I believe were resembling humans, were unpredictable and they were inefficient and they were obsessed with finding the purpose of life. And because they couldn't find a high enough purpose, they built these machines like Salo to do all their tasks, and eventually they tasked the machines with finding their ultimate purpose for them. The funny thing is that when the machines reported back that human like creatures don't have any inherent purpose at all, the creatures couldn't handle it and they destroyed themselves. And the tragic thing is that we are living a similar thing with AI nowadays, where it started with us human creating these machines to do menial tasks so we can focus on higher purpose things. Then we started giving them more and more tasks until, well, you can see how people misuse these tools and strip themselves of any purpose. And so, yeah, these are just some of my thoughts on this book. There was a lot more to dig deep into, like the whole thing with Rumford and his new religion and his hate on God and luck, which I found fascinating. But since I didn't quite fully grasp some of these parts, I will leave it at this for now. So, yeah.